Hey fam, Landon Stewart here, and I am right now creating our webinar system, and I'm in the middle of writing the actual webinar that I'm going to be using to do all of this selling. And I figured that since I'm writing it, right now would be a really good time to teach you how to sell stuff. And so what I'm going to do is actually go through a couple of the steps and a couple of the things that I'm doing, and actually go through each of the slides and show you how you can sell stuff really, really well. And this works best through selling over the internet. So this isn't for like phone calls or anything like that or in person. This is a really good formula for selling stuff through video, through webinars, through blog posts, through emails, through anything. You can sell amazing, like you will get amazing results if you use this. And so here's the formula. And for now, I don't recommend that you go out and start doing a bunch of webinars and things like that. We're going to have this webinar system out live very soon. And in the beginning, for the first month, 2 months, 3 months, what I would do is just use our webinar system. But as you learn and as you grow and as your team starts to grow, then you can begin doing your own webinars and things like that. I don't want to handicap you to make you depend on me. In the beginning, definitely just use my stuff, send people my way, I'll sell for you. And then as you go, you can learn how to do all of this on your own. I want to empower you to be able to create income anytime you want. So here's the formula if you want to write this down, and I'm following this formula in this video. And again, I follow this formula in like all of my stuff, right? This is like a 10-step selling formula. Anytime I'm selling something, again, through videos, webinars, emails, whatever, this is the formula I follow. It's attention, which is like the headline. That's basically where you're like, here's what I'm going to teach you. Then you have credibility, which credibility is where you say, like, this is why people should listen to you, right? Which is why in the beginning, I recommend that you just send people to my stuff so that you can borrow my credibility. And then as you go and your team grows, then you're going to have credibility of your own that you can use because credibility is really, really important. People are way more likely to buy something from someone who has earned a big result, right? I hope that makes sense. The next step is rapport, which that's basically just getting somebody to like you through telling them stories and things like that. The next step is problem, which is where you go over the problems that your prospect has. Then you go over the solution, which is like your product. Then you go over the features and the benefits, which is like what's included in your product. Then you go through social proof, right, which is like what other people have, the results other people have gotten from your product. Then you do risk reversal, which is basically like the money back guarantee and all of that. If they don't like the information, you're removing the risk. Then you have scarcity, so that's when you're like, you know, we have these awesome bonuses. If you're one of the first 5 people, or if you buy by midnight tonight, we're going to give you these bonuses. Then you have the call to action, which is where you tell people exactly what to do. And the call to action is really important. So if you're going to have, let's say you're going to have an hour-long webinar, and we'll just use that as an example, you're going to want to give the first call to action around, and guys, this is crucial, you're going to want to give the first call to action around minute 30, right? So what you're doing is the first call to action is like minute 30. So you're going to go through all 10 of these steps at minute 30, and the next 30 minutes is literally just telling more stories, giving more examples, more social proof, more everything, getting people to buy from you, right? I hope that makes sense. Really, really, really crucial if you want to get the best results possible that you do that. And sorry, my phone's ringing. I apologize for that. But those are the 10 steps. So now let me kind of walk you through. So here's the actual webinar, and things are going to change as we go. This is just a rough draft. Things are definitely going to change as we go, but here it is. So this is the opening of the webinar. So here's how I'd read it. So I'd say, hey there, my friends, Landon Stewart here. Thank you so much for being on this webinar. Tonight, you're going to discover how you can create a 6 to 7 figure per year income on the internet over the next 18 months or less. And I'm going to show you how you can do that without harassing friends and family, without cold calling prospects, and without building complicated websites. Now, guys, talking to the team here. So what I'm doing right here, again, this is the attention. This is like the headline. This is what value they're going to get by watching the webinar. So I'm giving basically the big promise. Now watch what I do next, because this is actually really, really cool. So here's the next slide. But before I show you how it works, let me make something perfectly clear. Now, with language, you have what's called an embedded command. What's an embedded command? Well, an embedded command is when you embed some sort of a command within your language. So as you'll notice right here, what do I have right here? I have it works, right? And that's really sly. It's not going to, you know, make a huge difference in conversions because I'm using that, but I'm making it in red, and that's what people are going to see. So whenever people look at this slide, the first thing they pay attention to is the fact that it works, right? and I'm going to keep using that kind of stuff over and over and over again throughout this webinar, and that's going to increase my conversions a bunch. And I'll make a note of every time I do it. So, but before I show you how it works, let me make something perfectly clear. This is not one of those get-rich-quick trainings that promises you a fortune for doing nothing. Now, I'm doing this part. So basically, in the opening up of this webinar, I'm doing two things. Number one, what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of all the people that we don't want joining our team. So there are some people who are looking for like this get-rich-quick magical bullet thingy majigger that's going to get them rich without doing any work, right? So I want those people to stop watching. But here's the other thing that I'm doing, and this is even more important. So a lot of people going into this webinar, they're going to kind of like be sitting back with like their arms crossed, right? Because they're not really sure if they should believe it or not. They're like, I've seen these get-rich-quick things. I don't know. So what I'm really doing right here is I'm basically telling them, hey, this is not one of those things. And I do it way more sly here in a second. So let me actually walk you through this. So there's that slide. Then I say, so here's the deal. What you're about to see is working great for my partners, Jason, Brent, and I. And as you pay attention to this webinar, we're going to show you. So what am I doing right here? That's an embedded command. I'm embedding to them to pay attention. The three of us. And those numbers, that's collected income. Not on the books or future earnings, but cash in the bank. So what am I doing here? I'm actually handling an objection before they ever have it. So some people, they might read that and be like, well, maybe you guys did that. That's probably like future stuff. That's not cash in the bank. Or maybe that's revenue, not profit, whatever. And so here I'm handling that objection saying, hey, that's actually cash in the bank. And then this is where it gets really important. Then I say, however, I'm not suggesting that everyone or anyone who decides to watch this training is going to average $1,000 to $2,000 per day in income online like we are. Again, embedded command right here to watch this training. And then I say most people who buy any kind of make money training will make little or no money at all. And why am I doing this? Some people will look at that and be like, Landon, why are you straight up telling people that people are going to make no money? Shouldn't you be like hyping stuff up the entire time? Well, the answer and the reason why I'm doing this is because that's what people are used to, right? This does a couple of things. Number one is it's like a pattern interrupt. And so a pattern interrupt is whenever you say something that people are not expecting. And whenever they hear something they're not expecting, it opens up their mind to be more easily influenced, right? So like a pattern interrupt, like at the beginning of the webinar, I'm going to clap like this, which like jolts you back for a second and that's a pattern interrupt. This is also a pattern interrupt because what are most people saying? Most people are like hiding all of this, or they hide all of this. So I'm doing two things. Number one, it's a pattern interrupt because they aren't used to it. Number two, what am I showing right here? I'm showing that I'm honest. So what are most people doing online? They're hiding all of this. They're like, everyone makes money. This is the easiest thing ever. Hiding this kind of information, even though it's true. So the people watching, whenever they hear that, they're like, you know what? This guy is honest. And whenever they say that, whenever they think that in their mind, like this guy tells the truth, you know what that also tells them? That everything else I'm saying is true as well. So like whenever I show them my credibility of, making all this money, doing all this stuff, they automatically have to believe that's true because they believe this is true. Does that make sense to everybody watching? How I'm making sure everyone knows that I'm an honest, good guy by being honest. And then I tell them why. So make little to no money at all because it's sort of like the people who buy a treadmill and then wonder why they aren't getting fit when they're staring at it for like 10 minutes a day. And so what I'm doing here is obviously giving them a reason why people aren't succeeding. It's because they aren't doing anything with it by using a metaphor that's also a little bit funny. And so it's also a little bit of a pattern interrupt. So if you'd like what I'm about to share with you to work for you, the way it's working for us, you need to, number one, watch closely. Number two, follow our instructions exactly. And number three, take massive action. With that understood, allow me to tell you. Now, why do I say allow, right? This is really important verbiage here. And so what I'm saying here is allow me to tell you. And so what I'm doing right there is if the person keeps watching past this point, I now have their permission, right? I'm saying like, if you will allow me to tell you. So I'm not just straight up, just like rattling off words. I now have their permission by them watching the rest of this webinar to teach them stuff. And it's really important with any kind of teaching that you get their permission. And so that's what I'm doing right here. And so I want you to pay close attention to like the verbiage that I'm using in this webinar because this is all very influential, all on purpose. Like this wasn't like an accident. Everything I've written in this webinar, as I'm sure you can see right now, is all 100% on purpose. And then I say, this is dramatically different from anything you've ever watched before, because as you watch this entire training, again, embedded command, we're going to walk you through the exact 3-step formula that we are using right now to help thousands of people create massive incomes from home. And before we get into it, allow me to introduce myself to you real quick. My name is Landon Stewart. That's a picture of me right there. I'm known as the coolest 23-year-old internet marketer on the planet. And then what I'm going to do, guys, in this part is make a little joke. I'll be like, I gave myself that title, so I might be the only person on the planet who knows me as that. And so what I'm doing is like taking a shot at myself. And so whenever people see that, like a shameless confession, then all of a sudden they feel like they're now more relatable to me. And it's not like me on a pedestal. Now we're like talking together because I'm taking a shot at myself. Does that make sense to everybody watching? Hope that it does. And then I'll say, but here's what's actually important. I got started online 5 years ago, and I now make over 6 figures a year from home while traveling all around the world. So what part am I in right now? So I just did the attention, which is like the headline, what they're going to learn. Now what I'm doing right here is the credibility, right? And then I'm going to go through a couple of pictures of me, which is also some rapport. You show my cool life and all of that, which is credibility and rapport both, because I'm showing them a cool life, which adds credibility, while also at the same time showing them that I'm a regular person and that I have fun and stuff, which also builds rapport and makes them like me more, right? Then I show a picture of me, Jason, and Brent there. And then more credibility. I say, I've spoken on stages to thousands of people. I've helped people live their dreams through the power of the internet. And I've done some really cool things. And then here's where it gets really important. So then I say, because people, they don't like it all about you, right? If you want to know the secret to storytelling and to getting people to listen to you, the secret to doing that is to making your stories about them. And I do that more later on, but I do it right here. So I say, but tonight is not about me. Tonight is about you. And here's exactly what you are going to learn tonight. So then I walk them through exactly what they're going to learn, which we can pretty much skip through. And then I say, here's why this is important to you now. And I go through a bunch of cool stuff, about, I hit a couple major triggers. So I tell them that everything they've been told about creating an income from home is wrong, which builds curiosity. I then tell them that I'm going to help them skip their learning curve and get straight to success. And then I tell them I'm going to save them years of pain and frustration. So people make decisions based on 2 things. It's either to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. So right here on this slide, I'm showing them that I'm going to help them avoid pain and get straight to success, the pleasure. So I'm helping them get the 2 things that all people want. Hope that makes sense. Then I say, is this for you? And this is whenever I talk directly to them. And I hit a couple of different things. I talk to network marketers, internet marketers, regular people with jobs. And I basically say, if you want to create an income online so that you can live your dreams, this training is for you. And then this slide's really cool. This is one of my favorite slides because, again, they're going to have an objection. So after I read this last line here where I'm like, hey, you can make money, spend time with your family, have the freedom to do what you want, go on vacations as often as you want, etc., etc. Whenever people hear that, what does their mind automatically do? It automatically begins to like shut off a little bit. Like they have an objection, like, I don't know if that's actually true. And so again, what I'm doing on this next slide is I'm handling that objection before they ever have it. And I talk straight to them. I say, and I realize that may seem far-fetched, but I'd like to ask that you suspend your disbelief for just a moment because I can deliver. And so that slide has like a bunch of cool stuff in it, but I'm asking them to suspend their disbelief. So like up until this point, they might be sitting back with their arms crossed. After I told them the truth that most people don't make money, they're kind of like, a little bit more relaxed. And now it's like their mind is now open and ready for me to be influenced, right? So then I have a confession. And this is the part where I start my real report. This is where I tell them the story that's going to get them to like me. And I do a lot of really cool stuff. So whenever you're selling, a lot of people only sell one way, and that's really based on money. They're like, you can make a bunch of money, then you can make more money, then after that, we're going to help you make more money. But the truth is, making money is really only one trigger. That's really only one reason that people get started in their business. There are actually some other things that are actually a deeper, more core emotion, and so what I'm going to do here is actually talk to their core emotions and the core things that they really want, and I get really deep, and I'll show you what I mean. So I say, but first, before we get into it, I have a confession to make. I want to tell you my confession through a story. So March of last year completely changed my life forever. I had a home business that I've been struggling in for years. I was doing everything that I was taught to do, yet I just couldn't seem to break through. You know that classic story of the kid who wants to succeed so bad, yet nothing is working for him? Yeah, that story was basically written about me. And it got to the point last March where I was about this close to just giving up, to just calling it quits. But then something sort of magical happened. After years of learning, studying, taking massive action, and doing whatever it takes to succeed, all of a sudden, all at once, my skills came together last April, and I could just do it. Creating an income, which was once incredibly difficult for me, all of a sudden became easy. You might hear of overnight success stories, stories of people who can't get anything to work, and then all of a sudden it's like everything they touch turns to gold. Well, that's what it felt like for me. And you'll notice a couple of things. So, number one, I'm using a lot of metaphors. So I'm talking about, the classic story. I'm talking about like this everything they touch turns to gold. So I'm using these metaphors and these stories, which is like the classic hero story, right? Where it's like, the farmer boy who can't get anything then becomes like the king, right? And so I'm using this classic rags to riches story, which is a true story. I'm not making anything up. Everything here is 100% true. But I'm using this story that's a really, really popular story, and everyone can relate to it, right? And so I say that's what it felt like for me. I went from last March making no money in my business ever to the very next month having my first ever 5-figure month online. It was so unbelievably excited I could barely even believe it was real life. I literally went from my girlfriend buying me a pizza last March because I had no money to the very next month taking her on a vacation to Myrtle Beach. I remember eating ramen noodles for dinner, crying myself to sleep one night, and the very next month I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted for the first time in my entire life. All of a sudden, life was really good. And you might even be able to picture inside of your mind right now what it would be like if all of a sudden your dreams came true tomorrow. And this slide is really important. So what am I doing here? Well, I'm getting people to think about their dreams. So a lot of times whenever people are selling, they talk about things that are like scams or like, are you sick and tired of getting scammed? And, there's a lot of scams out there. And what kind of mental images and feelings are you creating in people when they're thinking about all of the times they got scammed? Is that like, if you want someone to buy something from you, do you want them to immediately be thinking of, right before they buy about what it's like to be scammed? No, it's terrible. So what am I doing right here? I'm getting them to dream. I'm getting them to open up in their mind what it would be like if they had what they wanted. Right? And so I'm getting them to basically walk into their dreams, which is like an awesome state for getting people to buy. That's a buying state. And then I say that's a fun thing to think about, isn't it? And this is really important too. So what am I doing here? Right here, I'm getting a little yes. So whenever I say that's a fun thing to think about, obviously it's fun to think about your dreams, right? And so they're going to nod like, yeah, that is a fun thing to think about. And so I'm getting a mini yes, which is going to pay off for me down the road. And then I say, and that's exactly how it happened for me, but then here's what happened next. So now I'm bringing in the conflict into the story, right? I was succeeding big time, like bigger than I'd ever imagined I could, but there was a problem. Even though I'd stepped into my literal dream life, a few months back, I started to realize that my team wasn't succeeding at all. Here I am, I'm making great money, traveling around the world, having a ton of fun. I actually had freedom to do whatever I wanted for the first time in my entire life. And some of you wouldn't even know what to do if you had the freedom to do whatever you wanted, because most of us spend our entire lives in a box where time and money control us. So I'm doing, again, a bunch of awesome things. I'm talking about freedom, which is the main reason why people actually get into this industry is for freedom. Then what I'm doing is I'm making my story about them. So people are always going to ask, okay, so what's in it for me? And so what I'm doing here is I'm making my story about them. So I'm going, some of you, talking to them, getting them to think and place themselves inside of my story. And then I'm getting, like, relating to them. And then I ask, again, a question, which is, you know what I mean? Getting another yes, right? Which I'm going to keep bankrolling as many yeses as I can. Then when I get them to, hey, do you want to buy right now? That yes is like automatic because they're so used to saying yes, right? So all of a sudden last April, this whole world opened up to me. My friends and family who used to think I was a moron for doing this internet stuff. And here I'm relating to the people. So there are people watching who have been involved in network marketing for a long time and their friends and family made fun of them. So what am I doing here? I'm relating to those people, right? They're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that's like. And then they started coming to me wanting help with making more money, like I'm some sort of a guru or something. And again, I'm playing into their fantasy and their mind. So inside people's minds, they want to be like the money guy. They want to be the people that people come with their money questions, right? So I'm building this like fantasy inside of their mind. Does that make sense to you guys, team? I hope this makes sense because this is like really good stuff. And then I say, and all of a sudden my life became really good, really fast, but I had this major problem. My team wasn't succeeding at all, and I just couldn't figure out why, but it hurt. A lot of times in this industry, we're taught to look at people like their numbers. We're told it's a numbers game, but the truth is people aren't numbers. They're people. They're people just like you and I with hopes and dreams and desires and families, and it's important to understand that people are everything. And okay, so This is all 100% on purpose, right? This right here where I'm talking about people being important, I want them to believe that I believe they're important, which is why I'm using this. Now, I actually 100% do believe this. Everything here is 100% true, and I'm adding it in here 100% on purpose because I want them to know that they're important to me, that they matter to me. Because people, what's one of their core desires? To matter, to be important, right? So I'm playing into these desires, okay? People are everything. And my people who decided to trust me, which what am I doing right here? That's an embedded command, right? We're not succeeding like I was, and it hurt. It made me mad, frustrated, and angry, as I'm sure you can imagine if you were in a similar situation. So what did I decide to do? Well, a few months back, I began to pay attention, embedded command, and I realized that I was making at least a minimum of 5 figures a month on the internet consistently. So I had figured out how to do this, yet I just hadn't been able to crack the code to help my team duplicate what I was doing yet. That was until about 90 days ago when Jason, Britt, and I finally figured it out. And in a moment, I'm going to show you what we figured out, how it works. So this has two important things. Number one is an open loop. What's an open loop? An open loop is when you're like getting to like the good stuff, and then you're like, I'm going to tell you about that in a moment, which is like, it's like at the end of like a TV show when there's like a cliffhanger, and it's like you can't wait for next week. And so now I'm like priming their mind, like teasing them, like getting them to like salivate, wanting to know how. And then I also use the embed command again, saying that it works, right? And now you can use this formula to create a real sustainable income from home starting right now. Again, embedded command to use the formula that I'm about to give them. With what I'm about to share with you, you'll be able to skip all of the struggle that most people go through and jump straight to the success. Now, does that mean that you'll never have to work hard? Now, here's when I really start digging into their core desires. No, of course it doesn't. Sometimes it takes a little bit of hard work to live your dreams, and if you don't believe that it's worth it to work hard for a little while so that you can give your family the life they deserve, so that you never have to worry about money ever again, so that you can travel whenever you want to travel, so that you can be respected and admired by the people closest to you, do you see how I'm getting into like their core stuff? So it's not just like, hey, you can make a bunch of money. It's like, hey, you can be respected and admired. That's like a core desire, especially for men. That is a core desire for people to have, so you can make a difference, right? And I do this as actually, I put in there on purpose. Number one, it's an embedded command to actually make a difference. Number two, I want people joining our team who want to make a difference, because this isn't just about money at all. This is about making a difference. And I want people who watch to feel like, you know, I can make a difference with these people. I need to join them, right? And I want the people who don't want to make a difference to just write it off and not join, right? And leave a legacy. So I'm hitting on all these core desires. Give your family the life they deserve, right? Core desire. Never have to worry about money again. That's security, core desire. Travel whenever you want, which is the same idea as do whatever you want. Core desire. Be respected and admired. Core desire. That's 4 core desires. Make a difference. 5 core desires. Leave a legacy. 6 core desires within 6 slides. So I'm talking to who they really are underneath the shell. Does that make sense? Hope that it does. Then I say, then you're not in the right place tonight. And again, whenever they read this, whenever they just look at the slide, what are they actually going to see? That you're in the right place tonight, which is like an embedded command. Because I'm telling you, it's all totally worth it. Now, before I share with you how simple this really is, again, that's an open loop, let me go over some of the problems that you may have. And so what step is this? And I believe, oh, okay, I'm going to get into a couple more awesome things. So again, what are the steps to selling? I'm going to go through only the first couple tonight, and I'll do more videos on the rest later. So what are the first steps to selling? It's attention, which is like the headline, what you're going to learn. It's credibility, which is why you should listen. It's rapport, which is the story, getting someone to like you. And then it's problems, right? You need to go over the problems with what they're doing right now. And that's what I'm about to get into, right? I say, let me go over some of the problems that you may have. And then I say, see, this industry is awesome. I'm grateful for it because I've been able to create a really cool life through it. And it's better than a lot of other things. Like, for example, let's pretend that right now you're beginning to feel tired of working at your job. And this is actually an embedded command, right? What am I telling them to feel right now? I'm telling them to begin to feel tired of working at their job, right? What's a state that we want people to make a buying decision? When they're feeling tired of working at their job, right? So I'm literally telling them to feel that way, which is really powerful. And then I say why. So you're beginning to feel tired of working at your job because you can't make much money. You only get to see your family a few hours a day. You only get like 1 vacation a year. And frankly, you're beginning to feel sick and tired of it. right? So I'm telling them exactly how to feel. And so let's say that you decide you want to start a business so that you can have a cool life like we do. Well, if you wanted to buy a restaurant franchise, like a McDonald's, for example, according to entrepreneur.com, you'd be looking at startup costs of $1 to $2 million, and 750,000 of that would be coming out of your pocket. So now let me give you, this is how pros sell, okay? So there's a concept, and let me see. I can write it now. It's okay. I'll just tell you. So there's a concept. It's called price conditioning. So whenever you're watching amateur sales videos, what do they do at the end of the video? They'll be like, and this doesn't cost $2,000 or $1,000 or even $500. You can get started right now for only $297. That's what amateurs do, and you can still do that as a pro. Pros still do that too. But amateurs only price condition at the end of the video. So what's price conditioning? That's when you're giving people higher numbers so that whenever they hear your price, they feel like it's small. But here's what professionals do. So amateurs wait till the end to price condition. Professionals, they're price conditioning the entire time. So the entire time of this video, I'm going to be talking about numbers like 750,000, 2 million, 1 million, 10,000, 50,000, etc., 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 giving all these huge like $50,000 numbers so that by the time they get to our price of like 2,500 or 600, whatever they get started for, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a freaking no-brainer. McDonald's is 2 million. I can get started this for 2,500 bucks. It's a no-brainer, right? So this is price conditioning. Guys, this is all 100% on purpose. Plus, I'm comparing apples to oranges, right? And then you're only going to average like $100,000 a year, which is also price conditioning, giving these bigger numbers by owning one, right? So with a conventional franchise model, you have to take a ton of risk with only a little bit of upside. Compare that to an internet business where you can usually start your own for usually less than $10,000. Again, price conditioning. I'm talking about $10,000. Ours max is only $2,500, right? So whenever they get to our price, no brainer. That's cheap. And there are people who make millions of dollars a year doing that, working just a few hours a day and doing literally whatever they want to do all the time. That's pretty awesome, right? Again, I'm getting another yes, another agreement. Well, even though that's true, this business model still has a lot of problems, which is why only a tiny % of people normally succeed with it. Let me give you an example. And so then I'm going to get into the problems, which I don't have them written out yet, but what I'm going to do next is go over all the problems that normal network marketing has and that people have that Doobly solves. Like I'm going to talk about the learning curve in network marketing, how it takes forever to learn. It takes like 5 years to learn how to do all this stuff. But with Doobly and our team, there's a rotator we can plug in and start getting results right away. So I'm going to talk about all of the problems that Doobly and WooCar and our team solves. How cool is that? I hope you guys got value out of this because this is how you sell just so deep. This is like the deep stuff. And again, I'll make videos over the next couple of days after I write the rest of it, going over the rest of the stuff. But I hope you guys got massive value out of this because this is how I've been able to do well over 6 figures online and really go from struggling for a long time to living my dreams. It's because I'm able to do this. And the cool thing is, as a part of the team, you're going to have access to all of this. So I'm going to be doing this exact webinar, and you're actually going to be able to use it, right? So you'll be able to send people to watch this webinar live, and when they watch it and they join, they don't join me, they're going to join you. You're going to have access to the entire thing, which is just freaking awesome. I'm so pumped up about it. But that's it. Landon Stewart out. Have an awesome night. Bye-bye.